Now, they had a runway, but we knew there was a massive iceberg lurking out there, and we had to figure out where it is, how deep it is, and how we navigate around it. And we did that.
Welcome back to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a guest who I've personally been working with for the last 3 years. He owns a company called Right Brain Insights. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be here, mate.
So David, tell us a bit about Right Brain Insights and for our listeners and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Look, in the simplest way, what we do is we solve money problems, really. Technically, we provide a outsourced CFO service to independently owned industrial, manufacturing and trade service businesses here in Melbourne.
So you're referred from a mutual friend of ours who's also worked with and you referred to many clients. How long have you been in this space for and what made you start Right Brain Insights?
Yeah, sure. So founded in 2012 and I started it, honestly, Chris, because I put myself out of a job. I was financial director for a marketing agency and I was with them for nearly 2 years. And over that time, we had to recover from a fraudulent bookkeeper. The agency nearly went to the wall. We had to sack staff. We had to completely restructure the thing. We didn't go into administration, but over that 2-year period, we doubled the gross profit margin and we took the net margin from 2 to about 25%. Our revenue actually went down 10%. So we were making way more money, having way more fun with fewer people.
So you reduce cost, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely reduce
performance.
Costs, increase performance. So we were doing technically less work, but making more margin off the back of it. So a lot of work on pricing and really tweaking the economics of the business to make it just hum. But for me, what started as a full-time job, by the end of it was like a day a week. And because, we might get into this, but because my CV was, shall we say, untraditional, I found myself in a place where I thought I'd go into management consulting. Nobody would touch me because of the history. So I ended up...
When you say unconventional, why?
Just because of when I finished at the agency, I was 28 and I had worked in retail, economics, finance, banking, the military, fashion, advertising, sales, and on a yacht.
So
it was a bit of a mix. Yeah. It's very hard to sort of pigeonhole yourself. But I knew that what I had been through with the agency and helping them recover was just a fantastic experience. So I actually, not knowing what else to do, I started Right Brain Insights, sacked myself, and made the agency my first client. So basically, went from an employee to a consultant there. And then they recommended me to a multi-group construction company that they knew and did basically the same thing for them over a couple of years. And they recommended me to the next one and so on and so forth.
So obviously, as you were referred to me, now you talk about the most important part of any business is cash flow. It's the oxygen to a business.
Absolutely.
And understanding your numbers is critical if you want to understand a balance sheet. And you talk to me about different levers you can pull. So getting to a certain outcome, there's more than one way to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell us a bit about some of the things you share with your clients? What are these different ways? So you're looking at a balance sheet. What are the critical things you're looking at? And how do you, like the example you said before at the company, you cut out your costs, but generated more sales by increasing performance and making a lot more margin and ultimately having more fun. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so using the context of the agencies, every business is different and has different goals that you're trying to shape towards. But what we were getting at there, this is something that we encounter generally with clients, is all our clients have built a business off the back of their own expertise. And we deal a lot with blue collar guys, but I've also dealt with designers, scientists, fashion designers, so on and so forth. In this marketing agency, that's what they were. They were excellent marketers. They'd never been trained in the financial side of things, and they were relying on someone who was lying to them, it turned out, and was just negligent in their role. So in order for them to become effective, they had to understand their figures first. But to do that, you have to mix science with art, because these guys get paid to draw pictures and come up with creative ideas. So how do you explain what's going on in a balance sheet to them? Yeah, this is where the name came from, because how do you have to intersect art and science together. So in order to, you've got to grab the insight, but the key is to communicate it. It's actually a design question, not a financial one. So like in the agency, I ended up creating a cash flow model that was purely visual. There was no numbers on it. It was purely visual, and they could understand it. Correct.
So there's one thing having the data.
Yeah.
It's another thing conveyed in a way that someone can understand it.
Correct. I had to convey it in a way that, the guy who did like the re-release for the Nike Air Force One in Asia Pacific, how does he understand the cash flow? But what was really cool was as we started getting into that, we could start relating financial insights into what the creatives were doing. So like once upon a time this is going way back, like just when iPhones were becoming a thing, like 2011, late 2011. We did the first, we did it with Chupa Chups, and it was a game called Roller Coaster, and we pitched this idea. I met some game designers who knew the guys who made Mario, the original one. I met him in Melbourne. I was like, that's really, guys, you've got to come around and check this out. And they did the first, there's just two guys, and they did the first iPad magazine for Vogue ever. Got them around. They showed us what we could do. And I'm like, that's awesome. And we had no brief to Chupa Chups. We had no brief. We had no budget. We created it. And the way we did it was we said to these guys, hey, we got Chupa Chups as a client. What do you reckon you could do? And they were like, well, what if we create this game and you unlock the levels by eating the Chupa Chup, and each Chupa Chup has a little code on it? How's that go? Chupa Chups is owned, at least at that time, the global license was owned by a company in Italy called Perfetti. So we had to convince some bean counter in Confetti to give us like a couple of $100,000 to build this iPhone game. Totally new at the time. And the way we did that was I actually sat down with the creatives, tell me the idea, and I built a spreadsheet, a one-page spreadsheet that showed the bean counters at Perfetti what our investment would be required, and on a scenario basis, worst case, best case, base case, what their return on that investment would likely be. And here's the assumptions why. But we got the brief.
But you did it on one page.
We did it on one single page.
Simple, easy to read. You can make a decision. I always say, a confused mind doesn't act.
Exactly.
A confused mind doesn't buy. Show me what you want me to do.
And what was so cool was we got a response from them that was instantaneous, no questions asked.
Because it was simple.
Cool, execute. Yeah.
Can I ask, after it all happened, did you, was the outcome what you wanted?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We exceeded the best case scenario. Yeah, it was really cool. They ended up taking the game global.
That's incredible.
It was really cool. You'll still find some videos about it on YouTube and stuff. But
that's incredible. It's really cool. I'm learning a lot about you, Dave.
So there was all that sort of stuff. But what we were doing in the agency is like figure out our pricing and what our utilization was. And like you're trying to understand what is the asset inside the business that drives revenue. And in their case, it's ideas. And where do ideas come from? It's people. Okay. So what should we be charging and why? What have we been charging and what kind of outcome is that getting us? It's like, actually, it's unsustainable. So, hey, price has to change. Now, as you're changing price, you're changing your positioning. So we started saying no to briefs, which was originally quite scary. But as you get some wins on the board and you start building up some financial strength, that meant everything to these creatives because they just wanted to do cool work. They could actually come to me and like, this sounds silly, but we literally did it. Was we ranked like coolness with price, bit of a crap brief from a not so good brand. We're going to up price, to compensate for the headache creatively.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and by doing it was a really cool mix, and that's how we pulled it off with that one. It's different with other businesses.
Well, look, obviously, I spoke to you 3 years ago. Wow, that's gone quick. And for me, it was a fresh set of eyes. It was looking at different things, and it's always good to get an external person. And you've been invaluable to a lot of our financial modeling, a lot of our thinking, and you've really helped our business immensely. And I remember you said to me, there's three levers we can look at to get the outcome we're after. We can look at price, we can look at performance, and we can look at reducing cost. As in expenses, whatever that may be. That might be team, that might be soft or whatever it is. And you also told me that every dollar you reduce in expense, it's $4 to $5 less you have to earn. So you can pull those levers anyway. And it's very, very interesting looking at it from an outside perspective. For me, it was easy. I don't mean it was easy in the sense of what I had to do, but being left brain and loving numbers mean you could talk for hours over that.
Yeah.
But the interesting side, if you're sitting there with a right brain person, it's like if you're talking to me about creative, it's like talking to you in another language. So it's very, very interesting, but a good brief or a good plan should involve right brain, which is creative and visual, and left brain, which is numbers for people like me and yourself, I guess.
Yeah, and you need to swap between depending on who you're talking to. You know, like even in your case, Chris, when it came to our work with Relentless, going back to when we first locked and loaded the budgets that we were tracking the team against, Relentless, multiple companies that create a group, but every one of those had a one-page plan. That was it.
I remember we had a one-page plan for each,
Yep.
a one-page plan for the group.
For the group.
And we specifically did it that way. So we had to execute each company to one page and the group to one.
Yeah.
And as we've gone through the years, we've revised that plan, we've looked at it, things change. And when you get more data, you can be more accurate. But it's if you look back over the last few years, it's been fascinating, that journey. So going back to Right Brain Insights, it was there to facilitate. And another reason that obviously you told me, people that can't afford a CFO or that don't have a big business as well, they can get a company like you in. So you help companies like myself that do have accounts, CFOs, whatever they may be, and you look at it as a fresh set of eyes. You also go into other companies, I assume, that
Correct.
don't have a CFO and that teach them financial literacy. Would that be correct?
Correct.
They don't have to have that big tag because you're there as a contractor or a period of time, like a project basis.
Correct. We usually don't work with listed companies or large corporates, though we have in the past, but we don't actively target that. But we can work with anyone from a sole trader right up through to some of our largest clients have, in Aussie dollar terms, have turned over 40, 50 million, maybe a couple of hundred employees. Yeah.
Let me ask you, what are some of the key similarities you find in the smaller to the larger businesses and some of the things that you look for as a professional looking in?
So,
because we've got business owners that watch the show, big business owners as well.
Yeah. From the medium side of things, and let's put some definitions behind that. I'd say medium anywhere from sort of 4 to 10 million in revenue terms. And that kind of depends on what you're doing and what you're selling. But maybe at that range, you've got between, say, 10 to 30, 40, 50 employees, this kind of size. What I find there with clients is they actually lose control of the growth. Now, this is specific to my world, because when they've started their business, it's small, it's them, they can see it. Their brain can literally understand what's going on and be very, very accurate. And they grow very fast because they're good at what they do. They've got a great work ethic, so they grow. Awesome. Now, as the business is small, they're able to guide it to great effect. So as I said, they can literally see and feel what's happening. But once you hit a critical mass, you lose that control. The way that was effective for you to grow the business to there no longer becomes effective, and you actually have to start driving the business off the figures. So for clients at that level, we often get involved with them because they've inadvertently bumped up against some issues along the way. They've gone down a direction and not got the result they expected. Need to try and figure out why, and that's their sort of the proverbial come to Jesus moment.
Their Achilles heel.
Correct.
But from 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 10 or 10 to 100, you need to forget what you know because you need different skill sets. What got you to 1 million is not going to get you to 10 turnover.
Correct.
Or 100.
Correct.
And it's a different skill set that's required. It's a different team that's required, a different mindset, different people looking in to be able to give you that insight.
Yeah. You're playing the same game, but it's different leagues. Once you get beyond that medium size, now you start looking at sort of almost semi-corporate measures. Maybe you start to implement a board of advice. You start not just onto the figures, but you're also driving around policy and you're trying to actually control for the downside. That's a significant investment. Risk and governance begins to rise to the top and so on and so forth. Your growth rate might slow down, but you're trying to protect the downside. Now, in the beginning, when you're just starting out, now often it's about like, what we talk to guys all the time about is like, okay, you don't know what it's going to be. So actually, what's your runway? What's the worst case scenario? How can you, are you okay with that worst case scenario? And do you understand and have you appropriately resourced for what the requirements of your growth are likely to be? That's a problem we usually see when people start out is they think they can start their company with, say, $10,000, but actually they are incredibly surprised about just how much cash growth sucks up. And we work a lot with them on helping them understand their runway, helping them understand what kind of investors they should or should not be getting into bed with.
Come in because you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
You've got to do insurances. There's more. You mentioned governance. We've got a business advisor and he talks about strategic planning and governance. And as you grow, there's things that you never would have considered unless you have an advisor, unless you have a mentor. And even if you do, you need to go through that process.
Correct.
I need to earn more money because of so many other considerations and factors. So what your runway, what you thought was this,
it actually
substantially
shrinks.
reduces because of, and there's always things you need for safety nets or contingencies. Sometimes it's easier said than done.
I'll give you an example. This was a hilarious one. So back in 2014, we ended up working with the largest Kickstarter globally at that time. They were based in Melbourne, and it turned out that their accountant was my accountant at the time. And I got a call from him and be like, "Hey, can you come meet these guys? I'm really concerned about them." Okay, cool. Come and meet them. They'd basically created a thing, a widget, and they had sold it on their Kickstarter program for about $50 a pop. Okay, great. They raised something like, it was in the millions, right? It was the biggest one in the world at the time. Awesome. So they're like, yeah, great. And then they figured out that it was going to cost $80 a unit to make. So like, not so good.
Oh my God.
Right, so that's where I got the call to be like, hey, so every Kickstarter unit is going to run at a loss, but we've got other units being sold at scale to the likes of Walmart and Costco and these massive global retailers. We just need to survive the impact of the Kickstarter program, deliver on that, and then get through. So it was like managing their cash flow. Now, they had a runway, but we knew there was a massive iceberg lurking out there, and we had to figure out where it is, how deep it is, and how we navigate around it. And we did that. They're still around. You'll find their products in Bunnings.
How did you do it?
We did it by, first we had to understand, as I say, where is it? Right? Where is that iceberg? Is it far away? Is
3
it
months,
soon?
6 months, how deep, how big?
Yeah, because there's only so many things you can do if it's in it's a week
You're screwed.
in front of you. Probably, right? If you've got 6 months, okay, cool. We can start doing course corrections and the effect compounds over 6 months. And also, how big is it? If it's just a little blip in the ocean, or are we talking something substantial? Maybe a little blip in the ocean you can fix with a debt instrument, whereas something bigger you might need to actually go back to your investors, and you might be diluting your company and giving up some equity to fund that. In their case, what we were actually able to do, and this was really cool, was given some of the new sales were coming on based on production timelines.
Up the price.
We definitely upped the price for the new stuff, but the way we got through the cash flow impact of the Kickstarter loss was actually by putting the CEO on a plane, flying them to Hong Kong, where these units were being manufactured, and negotiating a 14-day extension of terms to the supplier, to the factory, because we could identify that their gap, while huge, was sharp. So their visual cash flow was going, boom. And then they were going to get payments from the likes of Walmart. Bang. So all we had to do was swap the timing on those. Yeah,
Clever.
We bought time. And it was just simply saying to the supplier, hey, unless we can get 14 days extension from you, we're kind of out of business. You're not going to get any more. And again, no questions asked. We could identify what it was. It's yeah, that's obvious, dude. And he gave us 30.
Going back to a few things. So you're starting a new business. Give me 3 practical tips that I can take away and learn from all your experience, which is vast, and you've dealt with a lot of different businesses. Give me 3 practical tips.
Cool. So number one, I'd be thinking about your opportunity cost, right?
So your expenses and everything, is that what you mean?
No. If you're starting a business, this is something I've seen time and time again,
Yep.
is when you're starting a business, it's all consuming. If you're working a job, you can turn off. There's stresses with a job, but you can go home and turn off. When you're running a business, you never really turn off. Over time, you can dull it down, but you never really do. So therefore, you have to have a risk-reward relationship for running a business. And that comes with your opportunity cost. So thinking about when you're starting out, like, what do I want this business to do and why? What should this business be able to do? Now, the reason I say that is if you're getting into it and it's just not working, you can actually figure out when to pull the pin. Because let's say you could walk into a job and earn 100 grand. Okay. Then eventually you would want the business, you need the business to be able to cover that opportunity cost. Not immediately, but eventually it has to. Otherwise, you're just better off taking a job.
Not having the risk.
Yeah, not having the risk.
And the stress.
Yeah. So thinking about that actually provides, in my opinion, a very healthy frame of reference to understand whether the business is working or not and help inform your decisions.
Yep.
So understand your opportunity cost. Number two, thinking about like, hey, just some basic financials and costings and run some numbers as to what you think you should be charging, how many units you need to sell, what your costs are going to be. Just a bit of analysis on that.
So understand the fundamentals of the
Correct.
business.
Understand the fundamentals. And what you're trying to identify there is, hey, how much cash do I need to safely start this business? That's called your working capital requirement. Yep. So understanding that. And then the third one I'd be looking at is just getting the right help beside you and around you. Like,
right team.
Correct. The team.
The right advice. My ex-boss used to say to me, said, how do you run a good business? What's the most important thing to run a successful business? And his words were, understand a balance sheet. Understand how to read a balance sheet. That was his words to me.
Yeah.
Understand what profit and loss means. Understand these core fundamentals. Because I asked him, he ran a massive business.
Yeah.
And that was his advice.
That's a more succinct way of what I'm putting it. But when it comes to opportunity cost, that's effectively your profit and loss. What is the performance of the business and is it up to par? Working capital is your balance sheet. How much cash do I need in order to give this business the runway it needs to succeed? And where's that cash going to come from? Debt, equity, combination of both. And then the team to help inform the decisions. Because you're going to need a sounding board. It's pretty lonely at the top if you're running a business as well. Making sure you've got people to talk to.
So I'd like to say to Mr. David Maher, thank you very much for being on the podcast. As it's become a custom, we've got our quick fire questions then. Are you ready, Dave?
Go for it.
What is the most interesting thing you've ever read?
Bible.
We'll be talking about that later. What's one experience that shaped you into who you are today?
Getting told my wife had 12 months to live.
Terrible. How do you push yourself outside your comfort zone?
I sort of do it to myself. Depends on the situation. Sorry, I know that's not the answer. But.
And just to go back to that last question, to not seem insensitive, obviously I know David and now your wife's fine.
Oh, yeah. She's good. She's good.
They're probably thinking, he's asked a question like that and bang it into the next one.
No.
Just to clarify, I know David and his wife's fine. Thank God, and it's all good. So yeah. After I ask the next question, I go, what an insensitive prick this guy is. My wife had 12 months to live. And your next question, David, is? But that's not the case.
Not at all, mate. Not at all.
All right. If you could master one craft, what would it be?
The irony, I would love to understand branding and marketing better.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Bad bookkeepers.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Night or day?
Day.
What's your favorite meal of the day? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
What's your go-to relax technique? What do you do?
Weights.
What's the most daring decision you've ever made?
I quit my job in the corporate world, sold everything I had, got a one-way ticket to try and work on a yacht in France. Never been on a boat.
Pretty crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you regret it?
Oh, God, no.
Absolutely. That's what I like to hear. If you could simplify one aspect of your life, what would it be?
Driving.
I hate driving. What's one goal that you're currently working towards?
establishing our own private equity fund, Right Brain Capital.
Now, a shout out to David's started his own podcast, where I'm going to be on that podcast after this. So, what's the podcast called?
It's called Right Brain Insights.
Excellent. So we'll put the link in the bottom. Please watch some of the episodes and I'll be on that as well. How do you stay organized amidst the busy schedule?
Calendar is everything.
Now, last but not least, on a scale of 1 to 10, sir, how much have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
9.98, Chris.
Loved having Mr. David Maher, a good friend of mine, on there. Look forward to releasing this episode and also being on your podcast. You want to see more Relentless Life on Your Terms? Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.